Title: How to Build Credit When the Economy is Shaky. Zara sat on her bed, staring at her phone screen with a heavy sigh. Another rejection message. This time, it was for the phone installment plan she'd applied for just yesterday. Again. They said my credit score wasn't high enough, she muttered softly, almost to herself. I didn't even know I had a credit score. She ran her fingers through her hair, feeling a mix of frustration and confusion. Growing up, money had always been a quiet topic at home. No one talked about credit cards or loans, and the word credit score sounded like something from a finance class she never took. All she knew was hustle. Work hard, save what you can, and get by. But now, at 23, things felt different. Everyone around her seemed to have a phone upgrade, new gadgets, cars, apartments, and here she was, stuck, waiting, and wondering why something as simple as buying a phone felt impossible. I always thought I could just work hard and figure things out. No need to learn all the complicated money stuff, Zara thought. But maybe that wasn't enough. Her rejection wasn't just about a phone. It was a sign that the world worked on rules she didn't know yet. Rules about credit history, scores, and how lenders decide if you're trustworthy with money. The idea hit her hard. If I don't understand credit, how am I supposed to survive when the economy feels shaky? How can I build a future if I don't even know how this system works? She leaned back against the headboard and took a deep breath. This was the moment. She could keep ignoring these financial puzzles, or she could finally learn. Okay, she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. Time to figure this out. Time to build my credit and build my future. With that thought, Zara grabbed her laptop and started searching. Because sometimes, the first step to power is just knowing where to begin. After the sting of rejection faded, Zara didn't just close her laptop. She opened it again, and this time, she was determined to learn. She typed, "What is credit?" into the search bar and started reading. Credit, she discovered, was basically your financial reputation. Like how people judge you by the way you act and keep promises, banks and lenders judge you by how you handle money. It's not just about loans or credit cards, Zara thought. It's about everything: rent, utilities, even some jobs check your credit now. The more she read, the more she realized how important credit was in everyday life. She learned that credit scores are numbers that show how reliable you are at paying money back. A high score means lenders trust you. A low score means you're risky. But the tricky part? Late payments, missed bills, or piling up debt can hurt your score fast. Zara's mind went back to her own bills, the phone plan she paid late once, the electricity bill she almost missed last month, and the credit card her friend helped her open but she barely used. All these little things had quietly built up over time. She was surprised to find out that having no credit history can be just as bad as having bad credit. If lenders don't see any record of you borrowing or paying back money, they assume you're risky because there's no proof you can handle credit responsibly. I wasn't irresponsible, Zara whispered. I was just uninformed. She imagined her credit score as a report card she never got to see before. Now, she could finally understand the grades and, more importantly, how to improve them. Zara felt a mix of relief and motivation. This wasn't about blame, it was about knowledge. And knowledge, she realized, was the key to control. With a little more confidence, she made notes. Pay bills on time, avoid maxing out cards, keep old accounts open, and check her credit report regularly. It wasn't magic, she knew. Building credit was a slow process, like planting a tree and waiting for it to grow. But now she was ready to start watering it. Zara closed her laptop for a moment, feeling a little less lost. I'm not powerless, she thought. I'm just at the beginning of my credit story, and that was enough to keep going. Zara sat back on her bed, notebook in hand. She had learned what credit really meant, but now she needed a plan. A real plan. Not something complicated or expensive, but something she could actually do. First, she read about secured credit cards. These were cards where you put down a deposit like a security blanket for the bank, and then you could use the card like a regular one. Perfect for someone like her, with no credit history to show off. Okay, step 1. Get a secured card, she wrote, underlining it twice. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. Next, she thought about how to use the card. She didn't want to max it out or get into debt. The smart move was to use it for something small and consistent, something she already paid for every month. Netflix. Simple, recurring, easy to track. So, step 2. Use the card for Netflix, she smiled to herself. It was a small bill, but it meant every month she'd be showing lenders she could pay on time. But the real trick? paying it off before the due date. No interest, no late fees, just proof she was responsible. Step 3. Pay off the full balance every month. Zara knew many people got into trouble by spending more than they could afford and only paying minimum payments. That would hurt her credit, not help it. Keep usage under 30%, she reminded herself. That meant if her card limit was $500, she wouldn't use more than $150. Keeping her balance low showed she wasn't relying too much on credit. She scribbled that down as step 4. Then came the part she almost forgot, checking her credit reports for free. It was her way to see progress and catch mistakes early. Step 5. Check reports regularly. She set a reminder on her phone for every 3 months. Finally, the golden rule: never miss a payment. Whether it was the card, her phone bill, or rent, paying on time was key. "I can do this," Zara said quietly. "I'm starting with what I have. No big income, no fancy job, just big energy." Her plan was simple but powerful. It didn't promise instant success. She knew building credit was like growing a plant. She had to water it with patience, consistency, and good habits. Her phone buzzed with a notification from the bank. She smiled. Step 1. Secured card application started. Zara felt a spark of hope. She wasn't helpless anymore. She was in control. Her credit glow-up had officially begun. Zara sat at her kitchen table scrolling through social media, and her eyes caught the latest flash sale. "Buy now, pay later," the ads shouted in bright colors. Her friends were tagging each other, sharing their new shoes, clothes, even gadgets. Everyone seemed to be upgrading their lifestyles overnight, and she felt that familiar tug. She sighed. "I want that too." But Zara had a plan now. She remembered her little secured credit card sitting in her wallet, a quiet reminder of the financial promise she made to herself. The temptation was real. She wanted to join in, to swipe her card without thinking, to feel that quick rush of new stuff. But she also remembered the pitfall: debt, late payments, and damaged credit scores. That rejection letter from the phone installment plan was still fresh in her mind. "Not yet," she told herself firmly. She focused on discipline, using her card only for Netflix, just like she planned. She didn't increase her spending. She kept her usage low, well below that 30% limit. The glow of small wins started showing after 3 months. She logged into her credit report and saw a small rise. "A tiny jump," she whispered, but it felt huge. At first, it was slow, but after 6 months of steady payments, checking her report, and resisting the sales calls, her score was even better. The glow-up was real. Then came the moment she never expected: she got approved for her own apartment. Zara couldn't believe it. The landlord had said yes. She was moving out of her parents' house. She was becoming her own person. That moment was electric. She felt like she finally owned her life again. She thought back to those months of saying no to impulsive buys, no to fancy upgrades she couldn't afford, and yes to patience and persistence. It wasn't easy. There were times she wanted to give up, to splurge just once, and forget the stress. But she knew those little decisions made every day built her future. She smiled at herself in the mirror, proud and a little surprised at how far she had come. Her credit glow-up wasn't just about numbers, it was about control, confidence, and owning her story. Zara held the small secured credit card in her hand, the one she'd gotten when she started this whole credit journey. It was nearly paid off now, and she had just closed the account. It felt like saying goodbye to an old friend, one who had helped her grow without judgment. She smiled softly. "I'm not rich," she whispered. Not yet, but she was smarter. She remembered the days when she didn't even know what a credit score was. When getting rejected for a phone plan felt like a personal failure, when all she had was hustle and hope. Now, she had something better: knowledge and control. In a world where money talks, Zara realized credit was her voice. It was power. It was trust, a way to show lenders, landlords, even employers, that she could handle responsibility. This shaky economy made things harder. Jobs were uncertain, prices were rising, and every dollar counted. But Zara wasn't just surviving anymore. She was building. Building credit, building confidence, building a future. She thought about the temptations she resisted, the small wins she celebrated, and the patience she practiced. It wasn't about having a fat bank account overnight, it was about steady steps forward. She looked around her small apartment, her own place, secured by the very credit score she built. "I'm not where I want to be," Zara said aloud, "but I'm not where I was. And this," she held up the card, "this was my first real step." She hoped her story would reach others like her, young, uncertain, Maybe overwhelmed by money talk, but ready to learn. Because credit isn't just numbers on a screen. It's a tool, a chance to rewrite your story. And sometimes, in a shaky economy, being smart with money isn't just wise, it's powerful. Credit is power, but only if you control it. It's not magic money or an instant fix. Building credit takes time, patience, and good habits. But in a shaky economy, knowing how to manage your credit can be the difference between feeling stuck and moving forward. Zara's story shows that it's not about how much money you have right now, it's about understanding the system, making smart choices, and taking small steps every day. Even when things feel uncertain, these small moves build a foundation you can trust. Remember, credit is your financial reputation. You earn it by paying bills on time, keeping debts low, and checking your progress regularly. It's slow work, but worth it because once you have good credit, opportunities open up. Better loans, apartments, even jobs. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, you're not alone. Zara started with zero knowledge and made mistakes. But she learned, adapted, and grew stronger. That's the real power. If Zara's journey inspired you, follow for more real-world stories that teach, because financial skills aren't just for experts, they're for everyone. Want to build strong credit from zero? You're not alone. I'll share tips, real experiences, and simple ways to grow your financial power step by step. Subscribe to hear more true stories that protect your future, stories that help you avoid common mistakes, understand money better, and build a life where you control your finances, not the other way around.